we're here to kind of talk about quiet quitting. I've got a lot of hate around this topic. A lot of people saying, quiet quitting, Gen Z's lazy if they're quiet quitting. You should go in and you should go above and beyond when you work. You shouldn't just go in and do the bare minimum and get out. You shouldn't have that work-life balance. You should give your everything to work. But first, I'll start with you, Emmanuel. I mean, what do you think? Both you guys are engineers. I mean, software engineers, electrical engineer. You guys are also Gen Z, but you guys are also, making good money at what you do. You guys have got maybe more reputable careers than someone like myself. I mean, where you guys are probably making a little bit better money, what do you guys think of quiet quitting? Do you think the kids are lazy if they're quiet quitting? Or do you think that this is something that is legitimate? We'll start with Emmanuel.
I think it's a blanket statement to say that all of Gen Z is pretty lazy. It depends also where you're working, right? So the whole incentive structure for major corporations nowadays, where it's like you work your whole entire butt off, but when a layoff happens for companies to meet their bottom line, they're going to lay you off regardless how hard you work or not, how many years you have. If you have a mortgage, a family, it doesn't matter. If the bottom line is for that company, they're going to lay you off. They're going to lay you off. I've seen it happen. And honestly, it's just situational. If you're a Gen Z person in a company, a big corporation versus working for a mom and pop type industry or shop, there might be a more loyalty incentive to stay with that company. Also, they're more likely to work harder for a person they have a personal relationship with, who also can give them incentives to stay in that company longer. So I just think it depends where they work.
100. How about you, Spencer? Do you think quiet quitting is just the kids being lazy? Do you think it's some BS, or do you stand by it?
I don't think it's just the kids being lazy. I think it's definitely goes back to what Emmanuel said. Like, it really depends on where you work. It depends on how the company treats you. If the company's treating you right, at least in my experience, I work harder at companies that treat me better. I have 2 jobs right now. One's retail, one's a software engineer position. Software engineer position treats me amazing, and I go above and beyond for them. But it also kind of depends on what work you're doing. Like, I love my field, and so I love what I do. And so I work long hours because I enjoy the experience and I like learning. But in a retail position where the company obviously does not care about me, I'm not going to go above and beyond for them.
So let me just ask you guys, because I know that both of you guys have worked in the realm of customer service and kind of crappier jobs where you're dealing with customers that are irate, they're angry over dumb stuff. And I get it. I've been there, right? I was in food service for years. Do you guys find yourself working harder now that you're in a position where the income is actually enough to, maybe buy a house or maybe take care of your family, maybe make investments? Do you find yourself having greater loyalty where you're actually making livable money versus when you were making, maybe like 15 an hour?
Definitely makes me more willing to work harder because it makes me want to keep my job and not lose that income stream.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when they pay well, a lot more inclined to work as hard as I can.
I think money is a temporary boost. Like, you'll get a raise or you get the salary, you get the offer letter. You look at it for a while and then it kind of fades away as it becomes more normalized. You get your first 5, 6, 7 paychecks and then you're like, all right, well, this is just the way that I make money now. Your lifestyle adjusts to how much money you make, and then all of a sudden it's just a regular paycheck to you, regardless how much you make. You could be making $2,000 a paycheck or $4,000, but eventually you become acclimated to how much you get paid, and then you get maybe a raise 6 months, a year down the line. It's a nice little boost. You want to work a little bit harder, but then that eventually fades away, and the cycle repeats over and over. So I don't know if money is exactly the motivating factor for me per se.
If it's not money for you, is it the happiness of the work? I know you, and from the sounds of it, you work much harder in your engineering job today than you did when you were working a crappy customer service job. Is that correct?
Well, that's because it's also the culture too, right? So like my group, my boss takes our engineering work extremely seriously versus working in an environment. We worked our first job together.
Yep, we did. Call center.
In a call center in high school when we were 17 years old. They were 18. And so I was always the youngest, but like I was always looking at people who were older than me. These guys were in their 30s and 40s working in the executive branches of that call center. And none of them took their job seriously except minus, the CEO. I'm not going to say that she didn't work hard. But like the culture there was lackadaisical. So it made me not want to care because the culture didn't care. But now I work in a culture where it's a lot of people taking things seriously and there's a lot of things on the line if they can go wrong, where you have to take it seriously too, because then you're a hindrance to that culture. You're that bad link in the chain. So that's it. It has to do with the people you work with too.
For sure, for sure. I've worked for, crappy bosses that I've been promised thousands of dollars as a bonus at X date, if we accomplish XYZ. The money doesn't come my way.
Yep.
I think it's one of those things where people, if you work for, a crappy boss, a crappy corporation, where there's broken promises on a constant basis, or you can't trust your leadership, or you don't have a lot of respect for your leadership, I think it's easy to not care as much, right? Like I work at a place right now where I actually love my boss and I love my coworkers and I enjoy the work that I do. So I care more about the quality of the work and making sure that the company or that the group I'm with succeeds, as opposed to before. It was like, I kind of cared, and then after a while I stopped, because it's like, why am I the only one that's actually interested in pushing this rock up the hill? And it sounds like for you, you're saying you're kind of a byproduct of the culture, and I kind of agree with that to a point. But at the same time, is it that you're just a byproduct of good leadership, or is it also that you want to work harder for good leadership?
Well, I think it goes both ways, but I think for sure that if you are a person who's not going to do the baseline expectations of working hard in the culture and matching everyone else's energy, you're clearly going to stand out. And there's going to be some self-evaluation and introspection with yourself, being like, either you don't belong here in this group, or you're going to match that level, because you're not going to last long.
Okay, let me ask you this. Do you guys think that there is inherently a problem with people who go into work and they don't want to be the hardest working person in the office? They don't want to be the guy working 60 hours a week. They want to come in and work their 40 and leave. Is there anything inherently wrong with wanting to be the mediocre, do your job, decent employee that's dependable and nothing more?
Are they getting all of their work done?
They're getting their work done.
Are their bosses happy with their results?
That's the thing, is that can be subjective, right?
No. Are they doing what their job is requiring? Like their job
On paper
saying this is what you need to do. They're doing it. Are they doing that?
I would say that is the definition of quiet quitting. You're doing what's in your job description and you're not going above and beyond. If your boss says, hey, we need you to call, 100 people by noon, and you've called exactly 100, and then you sat for 5 minutes, is that inherently wrong?
Is it wrong? No. But if you're wondering why you're not moving up in life, you know why.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because your manager can see what your productivity is. Like they'll know if you're doing just the bare minimum. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's grounds to fire someone, but if there's layoffs or stuff like that, it's usually pretty easy to figure out who to cut first in situations like that.
And
agreed.
Bosses, they pay attention to that stuff
100%.
All the time. Like when I was younger and I was a fresh person in the industries and all these things, working with new people, I was like, well, how would they really know to evaluate your experiences versus like what you say you're doing, and then like compared to other people?
Oh, they got metrics.
They know what is going on, no matter where you work.
So I full-heartedly agree with you guys. If you've got to cut, if you're in a position as a boss, you've got to cut, the lowest 30%, and it just so happens that the people that are performing to expectation and wasting time after that, not going above and beyond, those are the first ones that you quit. I completely understand that. But would you say that it's, morally wrong to the guy that's like, I hate my job anyways. I can go and make this money anywhere else. I'm marketable enough to go make this same, let's say he works at a restaurant, right? I'm a server who makes $30 an hour. I can go make this anywhere else selling cocktails or whatever. Is that wrong of that person to look at it and go, I don't plan on staying at this company for the next 3 years anyways. Mm-hmm. So if they fire me today and I have to pick up another serving job, is that wrong?
No, it's not wrong.
Because the company's not paying for that kind of loyalty, right?
If the company wants more, they need to make that clear. Like they need to make those expectations clear. Like that they want more from you. Otherwise, if you're just doing what they ask for, how can you be wrong for that?
Fair. This is an interesting question. With a lot of companies, in the job description, it'll say, and anything else that may come up, or anything else as you may be instructed. So when they've got a job description that's pretty narrow and tight, and then you get in the job and all of a sudden they're expanding on that as you've got free time, do you guys think that's wrong?
To put more work on top of you more so than what you expected?
Yeah, where maybe in the job description it says, and any other work as assigned, where there's a little bit of that ambiguity so that they can look at you and go, oh, okay, well, let's stack more work on if he gets it done really fast. Is that wrong?
I think in any job field, you're going to get work that you didn't expect to have, regardless of what. That's just life. That's just every single category of, or I should say industry, of a job or a career, you're going to have to do things you don't want to do. At times, you don't want to do them. If you're a person who throws their hands up in the air and you're like, all right, then you start complaining and all that stuff, it's just like, okay, then you're not a reliable employee and you're just actually really lazy at that. I would say you're a lazy person.
Okay. So, okay. I guess out of curiosity, how would you define lazy? Because if you're meeting expectations, is that lazy?
So what I'm saying is, like, you work at a job, right? You work at a job and all of a sudden you're doing your things for 6-7 months, your usual tasks that you signed up for, applied for the job to do, and you're doing them pretty well. Then all of a sudden you get like a task here or a task there that you're not normally supposed to be doing.
Right.
And then you're asking if they don't want to do that, is that lazy? I think that's lazy.
Okay.
But if you have a workload that's expected baseline, all of a sudden you're doing your job for 6-7 months and then they throw, hey, by the way, you're now responsible for this for the rest of your time of your career. Or you have to now do this, you have to now do that. It's not just an occurrence here and there. Now it's a consistent thing that you're responsible for. And you're like, oh, all right, I didn't sign up for this. Then you could be like, all right, I'm out.
So, this is interesting. In the restaurant industry, I've talked about this before, but when COVID hit, you had half the workers basically quit and enjoy the unemployment, the COVID money, the stimulus, right? So the few of us that were still servers at this restaurant, we were essentially picking up the job of other servers, of bussers. Our workload essentially doubled. And when it's all behind the scenes work, where you're not earning tips, but you're helping out in the kitchen and stuff, you're not making extra money. You're still getting paid your $2.13 an hour in the state of Utah to be a server. So I kind of agree with what you're saying, but at what point is it predatory, right? Like if you're paying a server $2.13 an hour and now you're asking them to do an extra hour of work at $2.13, is somebody lazy for not wanting to do that during COVID?
See, then if your boss was like, hey, listen, we're going to compensate for your extra time and effort, that's one thing. Versus, oh, you're already here and now you have to pick up the workload for a completely different side of the job that you didn't sign up for because we need to fill in space because of the industry's taking a weird hit right now because of a black swan event.
Yeah.
That's not a good boss. That's not a good business. They're not incentivizing you to do anything. So if anything,
two-way street.
You're being decentivized to or demoralized, and you're going to have this sense of, why the hell am I supposed to do this for you if you're not going to pay me?
Dude, the funniest thing to me, too, is in that gig, that's the same boss that's out there going, why is it that people don't want to work anymore? Why is it that people, won't stay at our job for more than a year? I'm like, you're burning people out, man. Yeah. You give people double their workload, don't pay them any extra. They're getting paid $2.13 an hour without the tips, and you're expecting them to do kitchen work. It's insane.
I just think that's the bad boss scenario, though.
But I guess that's my thing is there's
a lot of bad bosses.
When you work for a good boss, it's easy for your perception to change. And when you work for a bad boss, it's easy for your perception to change. That's that mean world sort of perspective of like, whatever I've lived, I have a bias. But there are a number of bad bosses out there.